I don't think a lot of Albertans look to the Toronto Globe and Mail for political advice, but that is Preston Manning's preferred outlet. I think he's rather disgraced in his home province of Alberta. I give you this evidence. On election night, when the NDP stormed into office, Preston Manning did not even show up at his own party at the so-called Manning Centre for Building Democracy, even though he was the advertised star attraction. I think the reason for that is Preston Manning helped destroy Alberta Conservatives and midwife the NDP government by whispering in the ears of Alberta Wildrose MLAs to defect in an unprincipled way to Jim Prentice. The rest is history. Well, if Albertans won't listen to Preston Manning, the Toronto Globe and Mail will. So his article, Time to Rebuild Conservatism in Alberta, probably sounds very thoughtful to them. Although I would say that in recent history, I don't think there is a losinger political strategist on the right than Preston Manning. He's never won an election, but he has managed to destroy conservatism now at a federal and provincial level. I worked with Preston Manning for several years with the Reform Party, but in hindsight, it's pretty clear to see that by splitting the right, he gave Jean Chrétien and Paul Martin really 10 years of uninterrupted power. Anyway, I just want to touch on a couple of points in his revisionist history in the Globe and Mail, and you can see why he published it there, because they won't fact-check him. I don't think he could get away with this in Alberta. Preston Manning said that in retrospect, he says today, the PC administration in Edmonton had increasingly departed from conservative principles. Oh, really? But then, Preston, why did you tell the principled conservative opposition to dissolve itself and defect to support this unprincipled conservative? You can't today say you never really liked Jim Prentice the whole time, when 6 months ago you were propping him up. Here's my favorite part in his advice in the Globe and Mail today. He says that the Wildrose opposition needs time and space to heal its internal divisions. Yeah, Preston, you caused those internal divisions by encouraging the majority of its MLAs to defect to the Jim Prentice party you just called unconservative. You caused those internal divisions, and now you're telling them they need time to heal. Yeah, thanks, Preston. Just a couple of quick lines. I say again, Preston isn't good at winning, but he is good at losing. Look at the language here of what he wants to do to Wildrose now. So Wildrose recovered from what Manning and Danielle Smith did to it. It actually has more seats now than it had last year. But Preston Manning thinks that they need to deconstruct themselves and rebuild themselves. No doubt he'll tell them how. Get a load of this language. He says, the deconstruction and rebuilding of conservatism provincially should not be nearly as long or as difficult as it was federally. So Preston Manning actually is not done his deconstruction, or as the rest of us would say, destruction. Preston Manning doesn't think his work is done with the Wildrose. He wants to help them even more by destroying them and rebuilding them again. Yeah, thanks very little, Preston. I think we could probably find some better advisors than you in the Globe and Mail. I just want to read one more line just to show how out of touch Preston Manning is, not just with the province and the politics, but with the economy. Preston Manning says that the answer for Alberta's economy now is not to strengthen oil and gas, not to get new pipelines, but rather to basically say oil and gas isn't going to do it. Albertans should focus on other industries. He says it's time for other sectors, agriculture and forestry, the service and knowledge sectors, to accept the challenge, up their game, and provide more of the leadership Alberta's economy urgently requires. So a man who told the most principled, strongest conservative opposition in Alberta history that it should go away now thinks that he's a business guru and that the answer to Alberta for its tens of billions of dollars of oil sands mega projects and pipeline mega projects is not to get those done, but basically to lie back and let the NDP have their way, and maybe we can make up for it by growing more wheat. That's Preston Manning. Hey, buddy, why don't you enjoy retirement and your grandchildren? I think you've served the public long enough. For TheRebel.media, I'm Ezra Levans.